What's going on, everyone? I'm your host, JT, and I'm back to you guys with another episode of the JT Sports Podcast. On this episode, I'm going to be giving you guys my NFL Week 16 predictions. Let's jump straight into it. The Jaguars are going on the road to take on the New York Jets Thursday Night Football. I think that a lot of people are overlooking the New York Jets in this matchup because they're going to be starting Zach Wilson at quarterback again. But if you go back and you look at Zach Wilson's performance last week against the Detroit Lions, he didn't play all that bad. The New York Jets did a really good job at getting him outside the pocket, which is where he made the majority of his best plays at. The Jacksonville Jaguars, their defense isn't that great, so the New York Jets should be able to have some success running the football on offense, which should take some of the pressure off Zach Wilson. The Jets also have a fantastic defense. The Jaguars are coming off a huge win against the Dallas Cowboys, so I definitely think with them riding the momentum of that win, short week on the road, plus they have a couple of injuries that they're dealing with, I think that this is the prime opportunity for the New York Jets to get this win and to get their season back on track. I'm taking the New York Jets to get the W. The Buffalo Bills are traveling on the road to the Windy City to take on the Chicago Bears. I'm rolling with the Bills. However, this game could be pretty close. Justin Fields, he's been snapping this season. And the Chicago Bears have only lost 2 or 3 games by 2 possessions or more. So this game definitely could be competitive. I think that Justin Fields, even if he doesn't have a good day on the ground, just with how productive he's been in the rushing department for the Chicago Bears, he should be able to keep the Chicago Bears around in this game. Plus, the Bears defense is a little underrated. Yes, they're really young, but they have a lot of young players on that squad. So I think that the Bears, they're going to lose this game, but I definitely think that they can keep it close with the Buffalo Bills at home. I like the Cleveland Browns to beat the New Orleans Saints at home. Yes, the Browns haven't looked that impressive despite having Deshaun Watson returning a couple of weeks ago. It's still taking a while for him to get into a rhythm in that offense. New Orleans, though, it's been a struggle for them to even score 20 every single week. So for the Browns, yes, your offense may struggle against that Dennis Allen defense, but the Browns defense should be good enough to keep them in this game and buy time for their offense to get something going. I like the Browns. Texans, Titans, you guys already know I'm rolling with the Tennessee Titans. Although Ryan Tannehill is not going to be playing in this game, we will be seeing Malik Willis, and the Titans are dealing with a lot of injuries. The Houston Texans, they don't know how to win games in the fourth quarter. Yes, they were able to push Kansas City last week, but overall, this Houston Texans team, they just find ways to lose games anytime they're in a close matchup. I like Tennessee to win this game. Yes, they're banged up. You got Malik Willis at quarterback, but you're playing the Houston Texans. You should be able to win this game, especially with you playing at home. Kansas City versus the Seattle Seahawks. This is one of the biggest games of the week. The Seahawks are 7-7. Their season is starting to go left. Meanwhile, you look at Kansas City. They're trying to keep up with the Buffalo Bills for the number 1 overall seed in the AFC. Kansas City is a really tough team to beat at home, especially at this time of the year. I like them to win this game. Geno Smith has been good this year. But when Seattle has struggled to find success on the ground with Kenneth Walker, and they've had to rely on Geno to win games, and they've become one-dimensional, they've run into a lot of problems. Kansas City's defense, they aren't that great against the run, but I do think when you look at Seattle's offense and how they have performed over the last couple of weeks, I think that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to put a lot of pressure on Geno, and they're going to find a way to slow down that rushing attack of the Seattle Seahawks, and I think that the Kansas City Chiefs will win this game at home. The Minnesota Vikings are taking on the New York Giants. I like the Vikings in this game. Many people, believe it or not, are picking the New York Giants for the upset, and I understand why. The Giants, They got a big win last week against the Washington Commanders. But I have to go with Minnesota. Yes, Minnesota, they don't impress you with how they win. But they are a 10-0 and one possession games. And the majority of NFL games are decided by one possession or less. So I trust Minnesota to win this game. They're playing at home. The New York Giants, yes, they won last week against the Washington Commanders. The Minnesota Vikings are a better team, though. And plus, they can score more points on you than what Washington can do. And for the New York Giants, I think their style of football revolves around low-scoring affairs. Yes, they want to run the football a lot with Saquon Barkley, but they also can do a little bit of work with Daniel Jones on the ground as well. The Giants, though, they're not that great at receiver right now. Their interior of their offensive line isn't all that great. I like the Minnesota Vikings to win this game. I just think that the Vikings are a more talented football team than the Giants. And around this time of the season is where you start to see talent actually means something. Yes, Brian Daboll has done a fantastic job of coaching this team up, and they have been able to be competitive against some of the better teams in the league this season. But I just think at this time of the year, I think the Minnesota Vikings are going to be able to pull off this win. Although it may be ugly, it may be another close game that the Vikings have to win, I trust Minnesota. They're 10-0 in one possession games. Nobody has found a way to beat this team yet when it matters. So I'm going to continue to ride the wave of the Minnesota Vikings. Bengals Patriots. This game is really interesting, right? The Cincinnati Bengals beat Tampa Bay last week, and they scored 34 unanswered points after trailing 17-3 at halftime. But if you go back and you watch that game, yes, Cincinnati did a fantastic job in making second half adjustments, and their defense played well. You have to give them credit. I think that the Buccaneers, though, turning the ball over 5 times was a large reason for why Cincinnati was able to win that game. They're going on the road against the New England Patriots. The Patriots offense isn't good, and the play calling with Matt Patricia is abysmal. But that defense is fantastic, and you saw what Tampa Bay's defense was able to do to Cincinnati's offense last week. New England is a really tough team to beat at home, but I'm going to still side with Cincinnati to get the win. The reason why I have confidence in Cincinnati to avoid this upset isn't because of their offense. It's because of their defense. Their defense, as of late, has really started to turn it up a notch. And their defense was already playing pretty good this year. But over the last 3 to 4 weeks, this defense has become increasingly better over the last couple of weeks. New England's offense, outside the bubble screens and Ramondre Stevenson, they have a hard time finding ways to move the ball efficiently on offense. That defense for Cincinnati, I think they make a couple of game-changing plays late in this ball game that wins the game for Cincinnati. The Detroit Lions are going on the road, taking on the Carolina Panthers. I'm taking the Detroit Lions to get the win. This is one of the hottest, if not the hottest team in the NFL. They're trying to keep up for that last seed in the NFC. I think they improved to 8-7 with this win over the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers, their defense is tough. Last week against Pittsburgh, though, your offense really couldn't get anything going. Yes, Detroit doesn't have a fantastic defense, but they are really good at forcing takeaways. I think if Detroit can shut down the run game, which they were able to do against the New York Jets, the Carolina Panthers are going to struggle, because then you're going to have to ask Sam Darnold to put the ball in the air. And when you look at Steve Wilks and that coaching staff, with what they have on offense, their philosophy really is running the football almost every play if possible. They probably only want to throw the football 15, 18 times at most. The Lions are going to win this game. I'm taking Detroit. The Atlanta Falcons taking on the Baltimore Ravens. I like the Ravens Even if they don't have Lamar, he pretty much has been ruled out again. The Falcons with Desmond Ridder, he struggled last week. Yes, the Saints have a really good defense, but at the same time, the Ravens don't have a good defense neither. Come on, bro. The Ravens defense is really good. And this defense has been playing some really good football. As a matter of fact, this defense has low-key been carrying this team. So for Atlanta, with Desmond Ridder at quarterback, he showed a little bit of flash. It wasn't all bad, but for the most part, I think that Atlanta's offense is really limited with Desmond Ridder at QB. You don't really know how effective your passing attack is going to be against the Baltimore Ravens. Yes, the offense of Baltimore hasn't been good, but at the same time, with the Atlanta Falcons, I think that their offense is probably going to cough up the ball a couple of times, mainly Desmond Ridder, to that Baltimore Ravens defense. I think that this is going to be a slugfest game. I think Baltimore pulls it out really ugly. If I had to give a score prediction for this matchup, I'd probably take the Ravens 13-6. The 49ers are at home hosting the Washington Commanders. I was really shocked that the Commanders lost to the New York Giants last week. I thought that the Giants were starting to trend down. I thought that injuries and the lack of talent was starting to catch up with them. But no, the Commanders lost that game. And now they're going on the road taking on San Francisco, who is one of the best teams in the NFL right now. I like the 49ers. Could this be a potential upset? Yes, it could. Washington's defense is really good. You're going against Brock Purdy. If you're a 49ers fan who is a critic of Brock Purdy, you're probably saying, okay, JT, Ron Rivera, defensive-minded coach. Washington has a pretty talented defense. This could be the game that Brock Purdy struggles and he crashes back down to earth. I don't think that's going to happen, but if you're one of those people who believe it's going to happen and you're taking Washington, okay, just know I'm taking the 49ers to win. I understand the argument for a Washington Commanders upset. At the same time, though, the 49ers with Brock Purdy, he kind of has rejuvenated this team. This team didn't even need no rejuvenation, but he just injected a different energy into this 49ers team. You see Kyle Shanahan, the way he calls plays, he's just calling plays with a different level of confidence. This defense is playing out of this world right now. For Washington, going against this 49ers defense, I think your offense with Taylor Heinicke is going to have way more problems moving the ball down the field compared to Brock Purdy and this 49ers offense being able to move the ball on this Washington Commanders defense. Not saying that the Commanders defense is going to be able to get some stops in this game, because I believe they will. I believe that this defense is going to be able to keep them around in this game, but I still like the 49ers to pull away with the win. Eagles, Cowboys. The Philadelphia Eagles are not going to have Jalen Hurts in this game. They're going to be rolling with Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew is a capable quarterback. It seems like people forget what Gardner Minshew has done so far throughout his NFL career. He was solid during his time starting with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he started a game or two for Philadelphia last season, if I'm not mistaken, and he played very well in those matchups. So for Philadelphia, you're not going to be walking into this game with your hands tied around your back offensively. Yeah, you're not going to be able to do what you normally could do on the ground with Jalen Hurts being there, but you do have Miles Sanders. You have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. The run game should still be able to be effective. Gardner Minshew is going to be able to make the necessary throws needed to win you this game. I like the Philadelphia Eagles to beat the Dallas Cowboys on the road. This is why I have so much confidence in Philadelphia right now. The Dallas Cowboys defense isn't playing great football. You saw what Jacksonville did to them last week. Right now, the Dallas Cowboys have a huge problem, and that's their cornerback 2 position. I was a big fan of Kelvin Joseph, aka Mr. Bossman Fat, when he was coming out of Kentucky. You won't find a bigger Kelvin Joseph fan than me, I promise you, not only on this platform, but in the world. But last week, that double move that Zay Jones laid on him was absolutely vicious, and he just hasn't been what I thought he would be this season. He's still a work in progress. I definitely think that you're going to see the Philadelphia Eagles work on him. And plus, I just think for the Dallas Cowboys, offensively, I really like how Philadelphia's defense matches up against this Dallas Cowboys offense. I like the Philadelphia Eagles to get the win, even if they don't have Jalen Hurts. Raiders, Steelers, this is one of the more underrated games to watch this week. And here's why. Both of these teams, believe it or not, still are competing for a spot in the playoffs. And right now, when it comes to the AFC playoff race, it's still all but over. Yes, the Chargers are starting to peak, and the Dolphins right now, I believe, still have that 7 seed at 8-6 in the AFC. But whoever wins this game is going to be 7-8. And if the Dolphins slip up against the Green Bay Packers, or if the Chargers slip up, then whoever wins this game will be one game behind that 7 seed. If they're able to get a couple of things go their way the next couple of weeks after this matchup, they could potentially end up stealing that last seed in the AFC. So this is basically a playoff elimination game. You got Kenny Pickett, who's going to be fully healthy after dealing with the concussion protocol over the last couple of weeks. He had to start Mitchell Trubisky again last week against Carolina, but he was able to get the job done. The Steelers offense has played better over the second half of this season compared to how they performed during the first half of this season. The run game now is there. You got the two-headed attack of Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris. Kenny Pickett was doing a really good job at not turning over the football before he ended up having to miss the time that he did with that concussion. You look at the Las Vegas Raiders. This team has just found ways to win. I'm just saying that. They don't do it pretty, but they find ways to win games, and they're 6-8. And for Pittsburgh, this is the kind of game that you definitely could see them losing. But I'm still going to take them to win this game anyway because they're playing at home. The Las Vegas Raiders, Josh Jacobs does scare me. You remember what J.K. Dobbins did against the Pittsburgh Steelers run defense a couple of weeks ago. I'm still having a little bit of PTSD about it. But for the Las Vegas Raiders, for the most part this season, unless you just hand them a win, you should be able to beat them. Pittsburgh's offense is starting to find a little bit of a identity with that run game. With the Las Vegas Raiders there, their defense isn't that great. For Pittsburgh, no matter what, you can trust your defense to get you a couple of stops until you have Alex Highsmith, TJ Watt. That defense for Pittsburgh should be the reason why they win this ball game, giving the Steelers at home. Packers, Dolphins. The Dolphins have lost 3 straight. They finally come back home after going 0-3 on the road. They lost to the Chargers, lost to the 49ers, recently lost to the Buffalo Bills. You're going against a Green Bay Packers team that is fighting for their playoff lives. Green Bay loses this game, they go home. The Packers, their wide receivers have finally showed up now. It pretty much took about all season for it to happen, but this offense is finally clicking. Although, against the Rams, they won that game convincingly, there were some moments where you was kind of thinking, okay, maybe the Rams will be able to pull this off. But the Green Bay Packers defense, they was able to hold strong, and they were able to make some big plays late in that game. For the Packers, you're going against a Dolphins defense that, although they are talented, especially up front with guys like Christian Wilkins and Jalen Phillips, this secondary has been pretty inconsistent. So if there was a time where we could see the bad man Aaron Rodgers having one of those games, this could be it. Going on the road against Miami, the weather is going to be a little cold though for those of you guys who aren't keeping up with the weather in South Florida, it's reportedly supposed to be around kickoff time for this game. It's going to be 54 degrees. That's pretty cold considering that we live in South Florida and it rarely gets cold down here. So I'm really interested in seeing how Miami deals with these temperatures because they've been playing in some pretty cold temperatures over the last couple of weeks. And a lot of people kind of think that's one of the reasons for how they have performed the way they have of late. But I think the Dolphins are going to end up bouncing back in this game. They have Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill. I think that's enough difference makers on the offense for them to be able to pull away against the Green Bay Packers in this game. I think that the Packers defense, I don't really know what to think of it. Like, the Packers defense, the talent is there. You're just wondering when's going to be the moment where this defense steps up and they make the big play at this point in the season against one of the better teams in the NFL. Because the Dolphins, although they are on a 3-game losing streak, this is still one of the more talented teams in the league. You look at the Green Bay Packers. I just think going into this game, I don't think they're going to be able to slow down the Dolphins offense. I'm going to take the Miami Dolphins to get the win. If I had to give you a score prediction, I'll probably take the Dolphins 34-31, my final score prediction. Broncos, Rams, not going to spend too much time on this one. I like the Rams to win this game. The Denver Broncos do have Russell Wilson coming back, but I just think with the Rams, as a matter of fact, I'm going to take the Broncos to win this game. This is why I'm going to take the Broncos to win this game. The Denver Broncos defense is really good, okay? Yes, their offense probably isn't going to do much, but I do think Russell Wilson, although he's been bad this year, he's still a better quarterback than Baker Mayfield, who's still trying to learn this LA Rams offense. They are beat up on the offensive line. They've been starting several different combinations on that offensive line. They still can't really get anything figured out. They can't really find any rhythm on the ground. The passing game is hit or miss. I like the Denver Broncos to win this game on the road against the LA Rams. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the Arizona Cardinals. Can you believe they have this game on Sunday Night Football? I don't want to see this game, bruh. Put some teams on Sunday Night Football that's actually good. As a matter of fact, you put that Packers-Dolphins game to Sunday night. Nobody wants to see the Buccaneers playing the damn Cardinals. And we all know who we're picking to win this game. We're picking Tampa Bay. There's no way Tampa Bay should be losing to either Colt McCoy or Trace McSorley. With how the Arizona Cardinals have looked this year, this is damn near the worst team in the NFL. Even though the Texans have the worst record in the NFL, you can argue and say that the Arizona Cardinals have been the most worst coached team in the league this season. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're not too far away from them, giving up 5 turnovers or 5 gifts against Cincinnati. Hopefully, Tampa Bay gets their act together this week against Arizona. Hopefully, they win this game. I believe they will. Last game, we have Chargers versus Colts, Monday Night Football. I'm taking the Colts on the road against Indianapolis. Indianapolis, they recently came out and announced that they're going to be starting Nick Foles. They're going to be benching Matt Ryan. I don't really think that's going to change all that much. The Chargers, though, under Brandon Staley, have been known to underplay the competition. And I remember around this time last year, they went into a game against the Houston Texans and they got upset. So I'm definitely rolling with the Chargers. With them getting healthy, I'm starting to believe that they're playing some of their best football and that they're going to win out. But I also wouldn't be surprised if the Indianapolis Colts pulled off the upset. I appreciate you guys for listening to this episode of the JT Sports Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Leave a like on the video. Make sure that you check out the JT Sports Podcast, available on all podcasting platforms, wherever you get your podcasts from. Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon. You can find the JT Sports Podcast. Leave us with a 5-star review. Share the podcast with your friends, family members, and acquaintances. And I will see you guys shortly with another episode of the JT Sports Podcast.